Hello, welcome back to the JRB podcast with myself, Ryan Levine, joined here by Jeff Jones and Bohdan Temnick.
Hello.
Hey,
And today we will be going over YCS Anaheim. We're going to talk about the Banlist a little bit, and we're going to look at the upcoming things in Supreme Darkness and Maze. Oh God, what is the set called? Maze of something.
Maze of the Master.
Maze of the Masters. Thank you. But before we
Maze
get
of the
into that,
Master, I don't know if we really have to go over because it's quite a bit away.
we're gonna talk about one card in it, I guess.
Oh,
But
sure.
yeah, just the yeah. Actually, we don't. Yeah, but definitely Supreme Darkness has a lot more.
Yeah, Supreme Darkness, and then we can
That
also
one-
talk about. Sorry, yeah, but we also talk
sorry.
about the first round of regionals from this last weekend because we were getting
yes.
some of that data.
Yes, we can. All right.
And compare
I
it to the
also
finals.
think Supreme Darkness as well, because there was a delay in Maze of the Master where we actually missed like a YCS weekend, where before it was going to be legal the weekend before, and
The
now
same
we
thing
actually two
happened
YCS,
with
right? Two
what is it
YCS.
called?
The Blue Eyes deck
Orlando.
got
Yeah,
delayed.
the Blue Eyes deck got delayed, so now it's not legal for Orlando.
It's very interesting because we used to have this a lot where we'd have pocket formats with like meta defining sets. And I just remember like event ban list. Oh, whoops, last event's data is invalidated, like on to the next. It just like sort of repeats itself, and now it's just like with set releases instead of ban lists, which I think is funny. Like, not to say that the Blue Eyes deck is gonna be meta defining, not to say that it isn't, but I think it is, yeah. There's a big disparity between like R&D plus like product manager plus organized play, I guess, but we're like such a small piece of the pie that does anything really matter at the end of the day? No, but they should.
All right.
Okay.
So before we
Well, no,
we
it should,
it
right?
stop, let me talk.
Like, for the most part, Yu-Gi-Oh is a competitive card game, and it's like the little Timmy getting it on the 14th doesn't care if he gets it on the 14th or the 20th. So you should try and like, do all of it where you can play the new cards like the week it's. I don't know, man. I think that one's kind of silly, and that's maybe something for the future, but no.
All right. So before we get into it, Jeff's deck profile from Anaheim kind of popped off by our standards. So I've been looking at the analytics, and we got a lot of new subs. And thank you guys for the support. And it even shows me how many people watched, like, went from Jeff's video to watch the previous episode of the podcast and then sub from there. So for those of you who are just joining us for the first or second time, this is a podcast where we talk about mostly Yu-Gi-Oh! Between the three of us. If you don't know who any of us are, for some reason, I guess Google it, or we're gonna have our. I'm gonna put our social media links.
People thought Jeff was dead. So
people did think Jeff was dead, yeah. So I'm gonna put our social media links in the description, because when we talk about our decks for Anaheim, I posted my deck list on my Twitter last week, so I'm going to assume that you have seen it. I'm going to post the link in the description, so when I'm talking about it, people can follow along. And then I'm also going to assume you've seen Jeff's deck, because the video is on our channel with 20 times more views than our usual video viewership. So we will assume you've seen those decks when we talk about them.
Who would have thought all
I
it
know.
took was posting a deck the week of release?
Yeah.
And
And the thing is, it's crazy because I topped 2 YCSs besides this one in the last year. And I just didn't do deck profile. I didn't do deck profiles from it because of that. People just thought I was dead. Yep. I just did I just talked on Twitter. I was just like, yeah, I topped this YCS, whatever.
Yeah.
And
I've seen some crazy comments.
I know. It's okay. It's okay.
They've been pretty funny.
All right.
Pretty good, but...
And then so we mostly talk about I'd say most of what we talk about is pretty much the competitive side of Yu-Gi-Oh! We do talk about other card games sometimes. Like we've been in the recent year or so branching out into other games, and we will discuss those as they become relevant to our experiences. And then we also talk about upcoming product releases and our opinion on those. So today, as I mentioned, it will be a recap of YCS Anaheim. We'll be talking about the ban list that was announced at YCS Anaheim, and we're actually not really going to focus on the ban list necessarily, but more of how the announcement of it being at the YCS made us feel.
I enjoyed all of it. I can't wait to go in depth into all of that. I thought that was probably one of the coolest things they could have done. Actually. So okay, we'll bring it up, but I think this is on par with them randomly announcing it at Philly.
I think it was better, like which I have a thing about that too. But
yeah, good. We can bring that up because like again, this isn't like an isolated thing. Except this one had a little bit more fanfare. I imagine if Philly had a stream, maybe that was their intention to begin with.
Oh, I forgot Philly didn't have a stream. Yeah, that could be it too.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about Supreme Darkness, and then I don't think there's anything else. I'm sure there's something else that we'll think about. Anyway, so let's just jump into YCS Anaheim and Crossover Breakers. So we not that briefly, but we talked about Crossover Breakers on the last episode, and obviously a bit of time has passed, and my opinions on the set and the metagame were in there, I'd say like in the early formation of my opinions when we recorded that episode. Now, obviously, it is 3 weeks later. I've played a YCS with those cards, and now my opinion has changed drastically. So if I say anything today that sounds extremely different from what I said on the previous episode, it was not because I was concealing my true thoughts. It was that I have learned since then, I guess. So
opinions are allowed to change with new information.
Yeah. All right. So I guess, Jeff, let's just start with Maliss, and I guess more specifically your deck. So I did not play against any Maliss somehow, like in Swiss. I played 11 rounds of Swiss, and I did not play against any Maliss. I played like 5 Ryzeal, a couple of them with Fiendsmith. I played like 2 to 3 like pure Fiendsmith decks, and then I think I played a Ubel and a Centurion and like a Kashtira Sprite deck. Like I just didn't play against Maliss. I didn't play against any Snake Eye either. So I don't.
Do you think that was expected though? Because like, okay, so I didn't really like look at a lot of the cards. I didn't really. I read the base level while you guys were testing. Because like at the time I was like, my intention was I'm probably not going to play Anaheim, but obviously I'm going to play subsequent events where these cards are going to be the top 2 decks.
Yeah.
I could not for the life of me justify playing Maliss when watching Jeff and Asala test solely for the fact that it seemed like a lot was going wrong. And then when you were playing the Ryzeal deck, it seemed like everything was really linear, simple, and you just played like a lot of like bare bones Yugi. And it felt like when we were playing like early Kashtira, right? Especially like a week 1 sort of format, it felt underexplored. It felt like people didn't know the ins and outs, the little intricacies. So it was like pretty reasonable. And your margin for error was a lot lower because your cards did like one thing for the most part. That was sort of where I was with the top 2 decks. So it doesn't surprise me that I think you're versing less Maliss decks, because I feel like coming from Japan where it's underpowered relative because of like 7 Tachyon and like the searchable landscapes and stuff. I think maybe people just didn't have the information presented to them like they did with Ryzeal, right? And maybe that's sort of where we were at for week 1 of Crossover Breaker.
Yes, but I think, Jeff, you were talking about the conversion rate of Maliss at Anaheim. I don't know if you have the actual numbers on that, but I know we discussed this briefly. That
I don't, because it's on our previous spreadsheet, not the new updated one. But yeah,
I remember that we talked about like Maliss had, so like as far as the conversion rate of the, do we have the breakdown of Anaheim exactly? I know that there was 1 Snake Eye and like only 1 Snake Eye deck, and it was mostly Ryzeal and Maliss. I want to say Ryzeal and Maliss were like 25 of the 32 decks, something like that, or like 24 of them.
I have the day 2 deck breakdown. I'll send it in the Discord. You can have a look at it real quick.
You have the day 2 one, because I have the top cut one. So
I have the day 2 one from the Konami blog, and I think that covers the records that can top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. This is okay. So for
you can look at these jumps, man. They're insane. They're
so the day two breakdown is actually insane. So Anaheim was almost 1,500 people. It was like 1,480 something, I believe. Day 2, it says 135 duelists made it to day 2 of YCS Anaheim. Here's the breakdown of all 135 duelists. Here's the breakdown of all 135 decks that they're using in the tournament. Ryzeal, which they do not differentiate between Fiendsmith Ryzeal and pure Ryzeal, was 45% of day 2. Maliss was 13% of day 2. Fiendsmith was 10%. Again, I don't know if Fiendsmith they have Fiendsmith and Ryzeal and Kashtira.
Well, they also have a
separate,
mono Kashtira, yes.
Yeah,
So maybe Fiendsmith is more Fiendsmith, Kashtira, or like Fiendsmith.
I assume
right?
Fiendsmith means like maybe the Musket Fiendsmith deck and the Kashtira Fiendsmith, like the decks that are like three track stuff like that.
Differentiate Musket, but I get you.
They did not differentiate Musket, and then just a bunch of a bunch of one-ofs, like one Voiceless Voice, one Memento, one Ritual Beast, one Salamangreat. And something interesting about a lot of these, a Voiceless Voice topped, right? Which means the one Voiceless Voice that Day 2 topped, and a Memento topped. So the one Memento that Day 2 topped, which I think that like kind of makes sense when you have people like, I don't know, like deck specialists, right? Where like, if you're going to play an off-meta choice like this, you either did a lot of things right. Like you either did a lot of things right and you're going to do well, or you're going to lose very early because you did a lot of things wrong. And if you've made it, like 8-1 with your Voices Voice deck or your Memento deck, you're probably going to win out on Day 2, right? And you're probably going to top. Whether, how far you go at that point, I can't say, but I would say like it's pretty unlikely that you're going to miss once you've made it that far with it like this. One Chimera, I actually played against the one Chimera deck in Day 2, and he bricked twice. So I didn't really get to see what his deck was about, but it was kind of unfortunate. So, just counteracting what I just said. If he had not bricked twice, it is very possible he would have destroyed me. And then, I would have seen the choices he made to get him that far. But there are a bunch of one-offs deck, but basically Ryzeal and Maliss and Fiendsmith were like far and away the highest conversion rates into Day 2, and I'm a little surprised to see Tempai so high as well. But I think it's just because like
I think there's more comfort picks, like you said. It's not even like deck specialists, right? I think a lot of these are either people that couldn't get either of the two crossover breaker cores. They're like, well, I have Tempai. Like I'm in the area. I'm from Greater California. Let's try it out. Like that's the logic that I would take in a situation like this, because I definitely did tell people, it's like, if you don't feel comfortable with a deck, it's okay to just play like standard Tempai or something, even like the Fiendsmith deck, right? Like it's already pretty defined. All you're changing is like flex spots. You don't really have to know anything. You're doing the same thing every game. These are nice decks into the unknown
points of the other decks to play the Fiendsmith deck well. That is what I will say. But
that is fair, yeah.
And we see Snake Eye. I did not realize only 2 Snake Eyes made Day 2. One of them did top. Paolo was the only Snake Eye to top the event, and he was eliminated in top 32, I believe, which is just like...
His deck was like 60 card, 30 non-engine.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy deck, which like...
It was
so that is what I want. I guess like we talked about this last time. We talked about how Ryzeal and Maliss are like the only 2 decks that you see people post about in the OCG. Like as somebody in the West, if we tried to research the OCG formats, all we see really is Ryzeal and Maliss. Like they're the decks that people are posting about, whatever. I'm sure there's more intricacies to their format than just what we're presented, but in the research that we're...
A huge amount of Ryzeal, followed by Maliss, then a sprinkle of Memento and Blue Eyes. That is what it is.
Yeah. And we were talking about how, well, here we still have an almost full power Tempai deck, a full power Yubel deck. We have all the Fiendsmith stuff, like Snake Eyes is still really good. And we mentioned like, it's very possible that Ryzeal and Maliss will still be very good decks, but we definitely thought the old decks would show up a bit more. And they just kind of didn't. Like they definitely, made it in there. Like, okay, I found the top 32 breakdown. So 10 Ryzeal and 4 Fiendsmith Ryzeal. So 14 Ryzeal variants.
In total. So I did the math. So if for the ones for converting to top 32 from Day 2, 22% of the Ryzeal decks converted to top 32, and 38% of the Maliss players converted to top 32.
Which I think that's because like the people who played Maliss, I would imagine were probably like you in that they've been wanting to play this deck for a while, right? Like I I did not even know if I was going to enter the main event of this YCS until Monday. Like, I had been testing a little bit, but I was like, I don't really like this, yada, yada, yada. And then, you know, like the week of the YCS when we started testing more and I was kind of getting into the rhythm, I was like, okay, like I can play Ryzeal. Like, this is kind of fun. Like, you know, I'll play Yu-Gi-Oh! Again and, you know, whatever. But I imagine a lot of the people who are playing Maliss have been like, this Maliss deck is sick. and I'm gonna play it. Because I know you've been practicing this for a while.
Yes, I started playing this deck now 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I printed out proxies and been playing it in real life. I plan on playing it for quite a while. And yeah, I think it kind of showed most of it. To go over like my deck or whatever, I played the Castor version of the deck. Before that, I had tried both the Sky Striker version, and Jesse said originally when he wanted to play this deck that to try out the Fiendsmith cards. So I tried the Fiendsmith cards. I really didn't like them. I think a lot of people are starting to like them now.
Sorry, I can I can hear it on the microphone.
It's my fucking ADHD.
Yeah.
Is fucking. I need something in my hands. Yeah, I'm shuffling Pokemon cards.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I tried the Fiendsmith cards. I really didn't like them, but it seems like they might be picking up steam now. Looking at some of the events that happened over the weekend, when I tried the Sky Striker version, the first 3 games I played, I activated like engage, search for Hornet drones, and then my opponent discarded Fua, and I'm like, wow, this is fucking ass to have to do this. And so I was like, okay, maybe I just don't do this, and I just stick with the Kashtira cards because I was very familiar with them. I liked how it got to play to Nibiru very well, and another reason why I wanted to play them is because the Maliss cards the Kashtira cards play really well into the mirror also, and I expected to play more of the mirror. Like I expected like 4 Ryzeal decks, 3 or 4 Maliss decks, and then a sprinkle of like 2 fire and some other stuff. And the decks I played in total were 5 Ryzeal, 2 Maliss, a Tenpai, a Yubel, a Sprite. And so now, like, yeah, I was like, oh, I'll just play these Kashtira cards, and if I go first, I will stop them from winning because my Unicorn will rip their extra deck. And instead, I just played against mostly Ryzeal, I guess, and I beat all of them except for the one in Top Cut, where I bricked game 3. But yeah, I played like every day this week. Also, I played a lot with the Sky Striker version as well. I built kind of a modified version of the one Jib played. I think he went undefeated in Swiss, and I've quite liked it playing now into like this more developed format. I think maybe I dismissed it too quickly on just like variants. I was like, wow, if I just get Fuwood on this freaking Hornet drones every game, I'm going to be pissed. And yeah, I don't know, but it's much better than I gave it credit for. I've also been playing Maliss with the like full package of the Bestial, so like Bestial Lubellion and whatever the spell is called because I can never remember it.
We're gonna talk about that card a little. We're gonna talk about that later. Don't you worry.
That card is so broken, and I think that's my favorite version of the deck. Even if I don't think right now it's like the best, I just love that card so much. It's when it resolves, it feels so broken. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. I had a pretty good experience playing. Like I said, I lost to a Maliss in Swiss. He won the die roll, and I think the die roll and Maliss matters a lot. And then I lost to the Ryzeal in top 32.
And that was a streamed match, so you can watch. It was
streamed. Don't watch it.
Don't watch it.
Some of the worst games ever. Game 1, my opponent bricked. Game 2, my opponent Lancia'd me. Game 3, I bricked.
Oh, never mind. Don't watch it.
Your end board looked like it was like little engine that could. You drew all your cash cards. I'm like, maybe this gets him there, and it's like, no, this is not. Like, Imperm IP, whoopsie daisy. I guess.
Like, I mean, I had like call by for like going second for his Lancia, but like he still had too much interaction, so like it was.
Yeah, you also just didn't have a Maliss card, to be fair, right? Like that was the biggest issue.
Yeah, so it was not a very interesting match. It was the epitome of like what people complained about with modern Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah,
it was like 6 turns for an entire match.
Yeah. And that's a shame because like obviously you played 11 rounds to get there, and I'm sure you had my round 11
none of
was
my matches
very
went like that.
similar. Yeah, it's just like my round 11, I literally lost in 6 minutes, and I was like, damn, that's rough. That I like that would just happen to be like the last round I played, where like almost every other I think all other 10 rounds I played like were like extremely back and forth, and I was shocked at like how back and forth they were, and it really felt different from a lot of the other, like more recent Yu-Gi-Oh formats. And then just round 11, I just like summon guy, get hand trap pass, kills me, summon guy, get hand trap pass, kills me, and I'm like, oh. Like is this what the people complain about? I was like, I guess. But yeah, and that is a shame that happened to be the one that was on stream. And I guess like to deviate just a little bit, one thing I do like is I did watch the finals, and I do think the final, like the last game of the finals, I think was a good one where like Triff won without drawing a Ryzeal card. Like he brick, like he didn't brick, like he had Fiendsmith stuff, but he did not draw like most of his engine, and he was still able to win. And I think that's like a good thing to be on the stream of the finals, right? Of just like somebody winning from a position like that, where like it wasn't just a complete blowout of like, oh my god, he had everything. It was like, no, he built that board in a cave with a box of scraps. Like he and they played, like against Tempai, they played to like turn 5 or turn 6. Like that's not normal. Like those games usually end in 3 minutes. But yeah, so that is good. I think that happened. But yeah, what was the Maliss deck that went the furthest? Was it top 4?
It should have been top 8.
Top 8? Okay.
Yeah, top 8. Yeah.
Top 8 was the furthest Maliss one. Okay.
And that was also a Cashier version.
Okay.
But I think the Cashier version will fall out of favor. I think people will tend to go towards Fiendsmith and Sky Striker.
Well, I think Unicorn is a little... Well, Unicorn's pretty good in the Maliss mirror, I guess, but...
Unicorn is really good. What's not good is drawing Birth.
Sure, yeah.
I almost said
Unicorn's getting worse, but it's only bad against pure Ryzeal. It's actually good against the Fiendsmith version, too. So, maybe Unicorn is still about as good as it was, right? Yeah, I was thinking, if Snake Eyes is gone, like, Unicorn was pretty good against Snake Eyes, right? That you can just pick apart, like, the card that you think you're going to lose to. Like, you can get rid of their princess, or you can get rid of, I don't even know what other, the Azamina fusion they might need. Like, I don't even know what a Snake Eyes extra deck would look like at this point, but, yeah, it's definitely still going to be good against the Fiendsmith cards. Not the pure Fiendsmith deck that plays, like, multiples of them, but, yeah. All right, do you have any closing thoughts on Maliss, or is that watch your deck profile? Watch his deck profile, I guess. Also,
I mean, I guess you can watch my deck profile, but I just think like it's I think it's one of the more difficult decks to run. It feels very rewarding when you are playing. Obviously, Lancia is a huge problem, but I guess that's something I should talk about. Is every game that I got Lancia with me going first, I won.
Well, you had cash cards that would sort of insulate you from Lancia, right?
I had either cash cards, hand traps, thrust, just ways to mitigate the effects of Lancia. And the only time I lost to Lancia really was when I was going second. But I already knew that was going to be a thing. That was one of the things where like Brian and Bohdan and Max were playing on Dueling Book. I just had the Maliss deck going second infinite times against Ryzeal, and it was just like they would draw like 3 or 4 cards if you didn't hand trap them, and then they drew into Lancia every time, and it was just like, okay, sure.
Yeah, it just comes back to the old like, oh, you have this blanket floodgate plus a board versus like just floodgate, right? Like that. That's when the issue happens, because Lancia is not as restricting as something like a Mulchami, where it's like it actually turns, skips you, and they've already applied pressure. It becomes really, really awkward. Did you think I guess like this is just a quick one. Because you were talking about like more Bestials. Do you think there's any because a lot of people kept asking me this. It's like, well, you're playing the cash cards, but you're playing the Bestials, and when you queue into like Fiendsmith, Ryzeal, or just like the mono Fiendsmith deck, like you're more than likely gonna Bestial them on their turn 1, given the opportunity, and then your cash cards sort of just don't do anything. It's like, how would you adjust your deck moving forward? Maybe that's what people sort of want to hear, the little ins and outs. It'll be the hidden tidbit of this part of the podcast. Like how do we compensate for this when we have to play more Bystials?
I mean, normally when you Bystial them, you just, if you have no Malice monsters, then you're gonna lose anyway. So the cash monsters are inconsequential to a hand like that. Usually, you would just start your turn by normal summoning and then linking away and start playing, and so the cash cards don't matter. So like, but that would be a reason to like consider not playing the cash cards also. Like if you want to go more heavier into the Bystials, like I only played 3. I'm probably going to go up to 4. If I played the Lubellian version, I'd probably play 5. Maybe I'd still
we
play
could
3.
also
Remember
the Polo deck from the YCS that he won, where he sided the Kashtira stuff going first in his Snake Eye deck. Like, you could treat it the same way almost. Like, I'm not sure if it's like as good.
I didn't use cards like Crossout because like I feel like Crossout's real shit. Like having siding Crossout,
and Lancia, and then play the mini game of like, did I draw the one copy of Lancia before I drew my Crossout?
Yeah, I would rather just try to like mitigate my opponent's turn entirely than hopefully like, because then you have to like draw a hand of like a way that stops your opponent, a way to let you play, and cross out for Lancia on your turn, and like so much has to go right. I would rather just not commit all that, and so.
Well, you didn't max out stuff like Thrust either, right? Like I'm sure you went over this in your deck profile. Like I just watched the combo stuff because that stuff's always nice.
No, I had 2 copies. I had 2 copies of Thrust and like.
Do you think maybe if more people know like Maliss is on the radar, you probably want to push like down to 3? Obviously, people knew it existed. I think Lancet. Like, do you think that's like another way to offset it? Like, you just have another Thrust into like Barry into the Ryzeal deck being like the most represented or something as a way to compensate for Lancia, sort of like.
I mean, also, there's a world where I just side 2 and main another one, like so.
Because you went for Thrust utility, but it's interesting you didn't go for 3 copies of Thrust. Is the one thing I was trying to figure out.
But
because you had like the one Slayer and the other.
Oh, the reason why the Crossout thing, I was talking about the Crossout thing, is because instead of like Crossout, I think the Kashtira cards are just better than those because they let you play through every hand trap anyway. Like literally every hand trap.
We figured that's what you were going for with like all the cards that you have. It's just like you don't have these awkward like I have Crossout in a matchup where I can't like flip Crossout and deal with Engine, right? Like that was the benefit of Crossout in the Snake Eye deck. Was that half the time you're versing a mirror match, and if you're not doing it on a hand trap, you can just do it on in-engine cards, and it's like fine. Like the Malice benefit is only for the mirror match. You queue into Ryzeal. What are you gonna do with Crossout? Hit a hand trap that you're already beating? No, it's specifically there for Lancia, right? Similar to Tempai when they were doing it for Barrier, I guess. So
yeah, so I'd much rather just use the Kashtira cards. Like you said, like I could like side someone could side the Kashtira cards for going first if they wanted to. But I think realistically, the best thing to do is just use triple tactics Thrust to set up some broken
cards. That's what it seemed like, because it seems like your deck doesn't do anything like it does unfair stuff, right? But it's unfair relative to the rest of modern Yu-Gi-Oh, not unfair relative to like the whole card pool of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? So it feels kind of flat as a combo deck for the most part because it's not putting up like 20 negates, it's not ripping a card from hand, it's not doing anything inherently broken. But in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, it's doing a lot efficiently is the one thing. So I think it's like something people sort of have to figure out by playing that deck. It's not a combo deck in the traditional sense. It's like a value deck that will make a big boss monster and then you hope you fade a nib, I guess, like enough of the time.
Yeah, like the deck is like really good into hand traps. A lot of like the hand traps that are played right now are like not very strong. You have to pair like 2 really strong hand traps into a like mid Malice hand in order to like achieve some sort of success. But like cards like Imperm, Valor, usually like not too great.
Yeah, they don't tend to do a lot. Yeah.
Like it has to be like Ghost Ogre plus other type of card on a sort of like a Splash Mage or something like that, or like
sometimes Ghost you Ogre the trap and you invalidate half of the things as well.
Like obviously everyone already knows the first thing you do is set a card anyway to like force any sort of bluff. But that was
you gotta keep them guessing.
Like Droll and Lock is terrible against this deck. Like Nibiru is fine if you don't open up with any sort of way to play outside of just Dormouse, but I think Nibiru is terrible against the deck. If you have any sort of extender, or if you have a cash card, like if you just have a Bestial, like the Nibiru just doesn't matter. It has to be again paired with something to stop your opponent from playing, or they have to have a very mid hand, and that's another reason why I would also consider uh, stuff like thrust in the main if people want to play like multiple Nibiru. Like if they Nibiru you, your thrust card now goes to your hand, and that's just broken. So
yeah, like another way to play.
I'm gonna keep playing this deck. Yeah, I think Ryzeal is still like probably the best deck, but I think that deck is so boring, and I would rather just play the deck I like.
We touched on how like the way Kriff built his deck. I think that deck is more well positioned into just standard like Ryzeal, right? Like I think it functions a lot better into Ryzeal.
I think Kriff's deck is worse into Maliss.
Into Maliss, for sure. I think it like because like it's inherently worse into Shifter. It's worse into Bestials, and then that's before you get into like any of the other more like specific cards, right? That just becomes really.
I think it's
really
also
weird.
worse into like the like Fuwa too, because like if you lead with a Fiendsmith card and your track or your Requiem gets Fuwa, you're summoned from deck, you draw a card, and then you have to give them an extra card to like make that.
This is gonna be a good segue because I guess Ryan can talk about SUDA and how he thinks Fuwa.
No, I'm gonna talk about my Ryzeal deck where I didn't play
Fuwa
in my deck.
Oh, right, you played a tournament too. All right, you shit out of me. My bad.
Yeah, I think that covers most of the things I want to talk about.
It's okay.
So to just jump off of Fuwa. So again, I'll put a link to this in the description. My Ryzeal deck, I bubbled the YCS because I am washed. I went 8-3, and I lost to Triff round 11 in literally 6 minutes. Like it was laughable. It was a round 11 world record any percent speed run. But I think my deck was actually fine, which I will talk about. So I say that as I need to pull it up to make sure that I know what I'm talking about.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So I did not, I guess like the main thing that I think is like different from my deck, a lot of other people's decks, is I did not main Fuwa. And I almost didn't even play it at all, but I decided that it should probably be in my side deck. But I was very close to not playing it at all. I do not think that card is very good against the pure Ryzeal deck. I wanted my deck to be 40, and I wanted to fit a lot of different non-engine cards, and I wanted to make sure that enough of my non-engine could actually stop Duo Drive from resolving, because I think that is like the huge main choke point.
That's the name of the game.
Yes, is like if you're playing a Ryzeal Mirror, which I expected to be playing a lot of Ryzeal Mirrors, and I did. I played like half my Swiss rounds were Ryzeal Mirrors. I think if you can stop Duo Drive from resolving, you are pretty favored, even going second, to the point that I think in the pure Ryzeal Mirror, I'm not 100% certain on this, but I'm leaning towards this. I think it might be better to choose second. From my like personal experience in the event, like in the tournament, I lost almost every game I went first, period. I think I won 2 games I went first and lost like 5 or 6 I went first. Because my duo just got hand trapped. The games I won going first where I had cross out for their hand trap and then resolved duo and won. And the games I lost going first where my duo got stopped and then my deck was terrible and then they killed me. And then going second, I won almost every game I went second. Like I think I lost every match I won the die roll. It might even be a perfect distribution of, I think I might have won 3 die rolls, chosen first in those 3 matches, and lost those 3 matches. And then I think I might have lost 8 die rolls and 2-0'd 6 of my opponents going second twice. And then like went to game 3, 2 of them. I think that might actually be what happened. Like this was not a going second deck. Fua was not even in my main deck. I don't even really know how to like describe it. It was just like, I think the Ryzeal cards are just so good at going second and breaking boards, mostly X'd. I think X'd Ryzeal, when you go second and can send aggregator, that is such a crazy, insane swing when you can negate one of their cards and search on summon, like, and get a body they have to answer. Like, it's just such a good card. And the assumption is that I have drawn a card that has negated my opponent's duo drive, and I'm sure crossout will be much more popular moving forward as the format kind of converges into more Ryzeal mirrors or Fiendsmith Ryzeal mirrors or whatever. But most of my opponents just weren't playing crossout, and if I drew a hand trap, it stopped duo drive from resolving, and then they just had detonator and summon X'd, answer detonator, and then won from there. Like pretty much. I know that's a pretty gross oversimplification of it, but like, to be honest, there's not a whole lot of more steps that really occurred for me in there. So yeah, I don't think you need to play like a going second version of Ryzeal where you main 6 Charmies and evenly and choose second or anything like that. But I think that the deck I played was a pretty reasonable template of like, post side in the Ryzeal mirror, I think I'm just going to choose second. I think that's where I've gotten to. I think against Maliss, you still have to go first. Which I think
you're leaking your goo. Now everyone's going to beat you at the
next one. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not even sure if I'm going to play Orlando, but we'll see.
And do you think this is the case even with like the Fiendsmith cards? I feel like standard Ryzeal, you can sort of dismantle that board. Obviously, they get their value, and it can be a back and forth. But I would treat situations like that sort of like Zodiac or Cash, right? Like the parallels are there. It's basically all it is, right? It's just like efficiency, do one thing every single time, get some value, and then obviously when more support comes out, it becomes a little bit more degenerate in between. But that's again another part of discussion we'll probably get into later. But
the reason I think
it just seems like it's exploitable.
Yeah, the reason I think going second is so good in the Ryzeal mirror, and I'm even going to tentatively expand this into including the Fiendsmith cards. The reason I think it's so good to go second is the hand traps are going to resolve. Like, if they draw hand traps, they're going to resolve. Like, if you go first, that doesn't stop the hand traps from resolving, right? Like they're going to still hand trap you. Your duo drive is still going to get negated. Or they're just going to hand trap your ice now because everybody's afraid of them just going into the Fiendsmith stuff from that. And the only cards that stop the hand traps are Crossout, and then tentatively stuff that removes your guy from the field, like Droplet or Econ or anything like that tributes, right? Which Droplet and Econ you can't use going first to dodge hand traps. They only work going second. So you create the situations where, like, if you draw a starter like X, and then you draw Droplet, right? If you go first, summon X, they hand trap it, and that ends your turn, you lose. If you go second, their board isn't negates. Their board is all like interactive cards that you can like play through, that your Ryzeal cards can play through. And the Ryzeal engine doesn't inherently search follow-up. I guess it does in the Fiendsmith version where you're just searching cross and then a monster for next turn. But that still gets stopped by the board that you make anyway. But like, I think that you're just trading cards into their board, and if you go second and have an extra card, you have more opportunities to create the favorable interactions that resolve your effects. One of your effects resolving is so much more valuable than one of their hand traps, if that makes sense. Like, them discarding Valor to negate your effect is technically a +1 for you. You've summoned a monster, you've activated its effect, they've discarded a card from their hand, your monster is still there. But obviously when that monster represents like a +3 if it resolves, that's not quite how the trade works. If you could go second and you have the extra card and you can draw more cards that force your cards through their effects, whether it be Droplet, Crossout, Called By, tactics, right? Even just tactics, which I guess tactics sometimes works going first also, haha. But yeah, I just think like the games, you're not making these crazy boards that just invalidate the opponent's cards, because I think X is so good at cracking fields. And especially if the Fiendsmith decks are playing, I'm going to say this is like asterisk, playing scared into Nibiru, and they're going for the Caesar instead of just going into like Desiree and Agnum Day and attaching it, whatever. I think that's even better for the pure Ryzeal deck, because if you just draw one of your breakers, like, because that card, the only hand trap that card stops is Nib. So if you just have one hand trap for Duo Drive, and their board is just like a Detonator and a Caesar, you just need one hand trap to negate Duo Drive, and then one breaker card, and then you are just destroying, you are cracking their entire field, right? You're exosoning them, you're doing whatever, and you're probably winning that game. I just feel like going like, and I guess this is good, that I think going second is better than it has been in a while, because they've finally gotten rid of all of the generic dumb cards that just auto win going first, right? Like Baron, Appaloosa, Savage, like all these cards are just gone. I think the real barrier, no pun intended, the real barrier to going second is Dimensional Barrier. I think that's the one that really gets you, right? Is like, you can draw all the breakers in the world, this doesn't matter if they just draw Barrier, which people are cutting. People are like, a lot of the Fiendsmith Ryzeal decks are not even siding 3 Barrier anymore. They're siding 1 and 3 Crossout, and the only thing they're doing is they're trying to cross out Barrier. Like, I just think, I don't know, maybe I'm insane, and I'm sure that Supreme Darkness and the sets that come out will like change the format a little bit, but if I could replay Anaheim, I would choose second more often. Like, I would just choose second post side more often. As insane as that sounds, I think that in the Ryzeal mirror,
with the same list and everything.
Yeah. Like if I could replay it with the same deck list, there would definitely be some matches I would just choose second instead of first, because I think going first is less consistent. I think you're really, like, with the decks being built as they are, where people are playing 18 hand traps that negate Duo Drive. Yeah, I actually just think going second in the Ryzeal mirror is probably more consistent. And like, I don't know, I want, every time my opponent went do Garrus Duo Drive, I negate Duo Drive, they make Detonator, like, I just beat them. Like, it didn't matter. I don't know, like, nothing the Ryzeal deck puts up in the mirror, if they don't resolve Duo Drive, which again, if they resolve Duo Drive, that's obvious, like, that's it, that's game. You play like 15 cards or 18 cards, say they can't do that, so you know, you negate that almost every time. And even then, if you just have Droplet, I think you're still in a good spot. But yeah, would I change anything else about my deck moving forward? I think Small World was really bad. I just Small World one time, didn't even activate it because the neg one was just so costly. I just wanted another card for consistency, but that's not really what ended up happening, because by the time it's your turn again, if you've hand trapped them, you're down so many cards at Small World specifically having to get rid of a monster, as opposed to like the Tachyon card that's coming out that lets you put back any card. It's just kind of, it's specific and costly. Like, you don't get to put back a brick like Cross or, you know, Plug-in or Hole Thruster, or like a duplicate of a spell that you can't activate. Like, if you draw, you know, like a duplicate Bonfire or something, you have to put back an actual monster. So the monsters are what's actually letting you play in the first place. So yeah, just wasn't a great card. I probably would have played a second Tactics instead of it. I think that would have been a little bit better, or maybe even a third Ogre, just another hand trap. I think the extract was fine, and then for the side, I think my side deck was also fine for the event. Going forward, I think there's a real consideration for Bistals against the Fiendsmith deck, or even just Shifter. I think the pure deck can just side Shifter, right? Like, we've talked about that. The pure deck can just side Shifter against the Fiendsmith deck, really, if you want. I don't even think that's that unreasonable, because if the Fiendsmith deck gets shifted, the trade-off you make for playing the Fiendsmith cards is your actual Ryzeal engine is weaker, right? Like, most people, I'd say almost everyone who's playing the Fiendsmith cards are not playing Plasma Hole, And then some people are also not even playing plugin. Not that plugin would really be that. I mean, I guess plugin can summon from banish, so I guess plugin would be fine under shifter. But not that plugin would even really do that much for you. But if you shifter them and they're just going duo drive for cross, like, and they lose most of their follow up because they can't draw off cross because they got shifted, and I guess it goes back to like shifter plus 1 breaker, and you're probably just cracking their whole field and banishing all their cards, right? And then what do they do?
And I think that's kind of what the Sky Striker version of the Maliss deck was doing, like, because they were playing shifter as well. So it's like I did not expect to play as much as, or to see as much of the like the Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck as there actually was.
I agree. Yeah, I didn't either.
And I mean, I sided shifter. I didn't main it.
Yeah.
But if that matchup, like, shifter, and then they have to pass with a mediocre thing because, and a lot of their hand drafts, I think those decks like were playing like Ogre and Valor, which you can't even activate under shifter. So if you're ending with just like duo drive, detonator pass, and they just activate Book of Eclipse, like, you better have like Ash Blossom, or else you're just lost probably.
Yeah. That's another good breaker, right? Just these types of like I don't know. I think the Ryzeal deck going first is just so fragile. Or the pure deck, I mean. I feel like the Fiendsmith deck probably is better going first because you have more stuff that you can do. But the pure Ryzeal deck just seems so fragile going first that I'm not 100% certain what deck I will. I'm probably gonna try the Fiendsmith deck to play at locals the next couple weeks. I was supposed to have a regional this weekend, and then it got rescheduled, which has never I've never actually seen that happen before. But like, I got like an email that was like, the regional has been rescheduled. I'm like, what? Yeah, I've literally never
remember the YCS that they moved.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I know. But I just got an email that was like the regional's been rescheduled. I'm like, oh, okay.
I know.
I might play the Fiendsmith deck at that. The Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck at that, just to get more reps with it, to have a better opinion of how it plays. But I'm not sure. I might just play the pure deck, but we'll see. Now, as far as the Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck goes, we should talk about it a little bit. And I think it's already developed a lot since the YCS. Like, I've been watching a lot of like online like DB tournaments, just watching people like play and just like DB rated, because I don't know, I've just been curious. And people are like, I think this deck was like a known quantity going into the YCS. I think everyone, this doesn't sound weird, people knew about the Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck, but I think like everyone that played it maybe thought they were the only ones that knew about it, if that makes any sense at all. Like, I think everyone that played it thought they were like really ahead of the curve, and then it was just like a bunch of people played it, and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. It definitely had a lot more people playing it than I thought would play it, but I think the deck has already developed quite a bit. It's only been a week, and I think like the exact list that Triff played is like pretty outdated now. I think like a lot of trends have just changed, right? Like, I've been watching him play on Dueling Book, and he has Bishals in his Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck now, and a bunch of other people are playing like a really heavy Bishal package with Lubellion and Branded Regained in the Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck, and they're like trimming on the Ryzeal cards. They're playing like 2 sword 2x, right? Because those cards are not starters really. Like, if you're not playing pure Ryzeal, just X'd doesn't do that much, or it just does a lot less than, like, if you don't have Plasma Hole or plugin, you're just going duo drive detonator. I don't even know if you get to draw off the duo drive you do it that way. I guess if you node tribute the duo, yeah, like, it's just much weaker than what the pure Ryzeal deck does off of just those cards. So they're playing a lot more cards that summon to the field, right? And that's where I think the advantage of the Bistals and like Nib come in. If you Nib someone and then summon a Bistal, and you just start your turn with turning those into
Fiendsmith.
Yeah, the closed Heaven Moon girl, and then just start doing Fiendsmith stuff there, then you do your Ryzeal stuff after that, I think that's where those cards get a lot more valuable. So, yeah, I think that this deck will advance a lot. And I know that we've already talked about this. I think if the Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck gets a lot more popular, I think there's a lot more room for the Maliss deck to take like an anti-meta approach, right? Where they can start playing more of these cards like Shifter. And there was another card that you mentioned. And just more Bistals, right? I think is what we talked about.
Yeah, like if the Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck transforms into some mishmash of 10 different archetypes, I think the Maliss deck really thrives. I think it makes their Maliss deck makes their Maliss matchup significantly worse outside of, and the only reason why I can think of besides like having more bodies is good for Fiendsmith is to play like the Lubellion is because of how good Regained is into Maliss if you get it to resolve. But if Shifter resolves, you're not getting that anyway. So
yeah. For sure. Yeah, and then I think that covers everything I want to talk about for these new decks for now. We can, if you guys don't have any other thoughts, I think we can go into the ban list for a little bit and then talk about SUDA. But any other closing thoughts on these decks? Oh, I guess let's talk about the pure Fiendsmith deck for like a minute. That deck is a lot better than I thought, or that deck performed a lot better than I thought it would. And I definitely think if you look at the decks that some of them played, like if you look at like Josh's deck from the YCS, I feel like you can just slam Bistals in that, like a lot, like a lot of Bistals, right? And
well, this goes back to what Bohdan said earlier. What happens when they conflict with your heavy Kashtira engine?
Maybe you especially cut the Kashtiras for the
like,
Bistals.
You just want to put 2 bodies on board, and maybe Lubellion can also sort of offset it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Actually just go like you could like try to set up Lubellion into beast send right on like your turn 1, and then summon cash cards that way if you're going that heavy. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man.
They're level 6s.
I don't think that deck
Lars.
is that good. Like, I just feel like there's way too much going on in the current decks. I think it was a good choice. It was a comfort pick, like I said. But going back, I'm sure someone like Josh probably would have played Ryzeal and given a little bit more testing. But I'm not sure. Like who's to say he wasn't already, trying it and he didn't like it. But yeah, I don't think this deck is inherently better. It's just like efficient. It's another like low to the ground deck, because we're looking at Josh's deck from Anaheim, right? That was the musket deck. It didn't play cash, yeah.
Oh,
so
I think
that
one's I forgot he was playing that. I thought he was playing the Kashtira.
No, I think if you just slam a Bestial engine in that, especially if the Fiendsmith card, because people are just throwing the Fiendsmiths in literally everything now, right? Like it's the pure deck. They're playing it Maliss.
It's so funny how that happened, because it literally dropped off, and the Fiendsmith cards were like going down really low, and then all of a sudden everyone decided, you know what, fuck it, Fiendsmith like and everything. Yeah, it's so silly how that happens.
At Niagara, right? At Niagara, everyone cut the Fiendsmith cards to play Dominus Impulse. And the people that still played the Fiendsmith cards, like you played 1 Engraver, 1 Lacrima in your deck, right?
Yeah,
just to like, you were not playing a heavy engine to like draw Engraver. You were just like, I'm going to make Moon Goddess as part of my Seikai's combo, summon Lacrima, and like make a Desiree, right? And it was just, you just played a brick in your deck to like have an extra guy to end on. And yeah, like if we look at something I like doing is like, I think the TCG player like price trend is actually like a pretty reasonable like indication of how popular cards get. When you look at the price trend and you look at like at Nats, this card was $90, right? Fiendsmith Engraver. And then October, right after Niagara, the card was like $50. And then now it's back up to like $95, $9.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, right? Because literally 2 months ago, I don't want to play with you anymore, Fiendsmith Engraver, just tossing it into the trash. And then now people are playing, they're not just teching it, they're just playing like full Fiendsmith, like everyone is just playing these full Fiendsmith decks. And whether like there is some optimization that's been done since then, right? Like now people are playing really heavy Fiendsmith engines with the trap card and
also,
Agnonde.
I just want to kind of say something because it's kind of been annoying me. When the Lacrima Girl first came out, I was like a really big fan of that card, and the trap card as well. And I really wanted to play those in like a lot of things. I thought they were very good, and it came to the point where at that YCS, because Max and I played the same deck, multiple people scoffed when we summoned Lacrima against them, which was crazy. And now
Yeah.
I think it was definitely like that, honestly. I sort of underestimated how good it was, even just as like one card normal summon sort of just gets you into everything as well.
Play against Paulo round 1 of that, and he beat me with his 60 card monstrosity, but I won like game 2 simply because Lacrima just kept recycling. He was like end phase, and I'd be like, Lacrima, recycle, summon, and then I have like infinite bodies for the next turn, and then I was like, yeah, bring back guy, link SIP, IPSP, banisher stuff, and like I thought these cards were like very, very good. I think it was very funny because even Max said, "Yeah, I summoned Lacrima and someone scoffed and asked why I was playing that." And I was
it's
like,
funny
I'm going to summon a monster every turn for 17 turns.
Yeah.
Because you're going infinite because of the Lacrima, probably into like more middling hand traps, right? Like nothing swingy like a Bestial into your, mono light stratagem. But like if you're getting Vela, Impumped, Urged, just like the generic stuff, and they're not applying enough pressure, cards like that just keep you in the game forever without too much investment.
Yeah,
which is
that
always
was
good.
One of my round 3 loss. My first loss at Anaheim was 100% because I had not played against the Fiendsmith cards enough, and I just used my interactions. I played against the Ryzeal Fiendsmith deck, and at a certain point, I stopped one of his Ryzeal cards that I definitely had other ways to answer, and then I think it must have been Called by the Grave. I think I had Called by the Grave, and I activated it on one of his Ryzeals in the grave to negate the one that he was summoning, instead of just using it on Requiem when Lacrima tried to bring it back. And it was like I could have used a different card to answer this Ryzeal cards. And if I had just if I just cut the head off the Fiendsmith cards, I think I won that game like very easily. And then instead it was like we went 4 more turns and that Lacrima summoned back Requiem 4 more times, and I was like, I really underestimated like exactly what all of this stuff allowed for. So for sure, my mistake there where I was just not. And then I played 4 more Fiendsmiths and got the hang of it by the end of the tournament. But
yeah, that's if there's any method to that is our method. Play the YCS. That's
oh yeah, for sure. It's like it is crazy. Like I think it's like. Yeah.
We do it more often than not, dude. Jesse also does it.
Yeah,
well. Like,
learning the meta as you play.
First experience playing is my first match. Whoops.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And then I played against just a bunch of Fiendsmith decks the rest of the day and was like beat most of them. And I was like, okay, cool. I think I get it now. But yeah, I think there's something there with the deck with just like Engravers, Lubellion. Like I definitely think that you can make that happen. I don't know what cards have to be removed from the Fiend. I mean, like you probably can't play them with Keshtira. I think that you guys are right. I didn't really think about that. I didn't think about how it conflicted like that, but there's definitely a world where you can just play the Musket Fiendsmith deck with no Keshtiras, and you can just put Lubellions and Bishals in.
It's definitely gonna be cyclical, because then at that point your deck is I don't want to say worse, but maybe like a more mono Ryzeal deck that we saw coming out of OCG, pre all of the new stuff. Maybe that deck is more well positioned when you do have more cards like Bestials, and like you're not playing a deck like Maliss that has the benefit of like a Bestial as an extender, right? That just like gives you 2 bodies and just gets you playing half the time. I think that's where the appeal of the Bestials comes in for me. It's like they do 2 things versus like playing it like a hand trap in a format that does seem like it can be cyclical. That's on par with like cross out D barrier, cross out, whatever mono card destroys your deck. Like it doesn't feel like good Yu-Gi-Oh to me in that sense, and it seems like you might have some poor matchup spreads where it just doesn't line up too well. But I could definitely see it for sure. I think in the Maliss deck, I definitely would like to explore that sort of version more. But yeah, I don't see any benefit to playing it in Ryzeal.
Yeah,
I think you just play better non-engine.
I just think like the pure.
Oh, like
I'm gonna call it the pure Fiendsmith deck. I know it's not.
Yeah.
That's not what it is, but they're just like playing rank 6s. Like they're playing like Evils are Lars.
Yeah.
You can just
Lars,
make that with Bistils.
Yeah.
You know, you can't make Wave King or whatever his name is, but you can you can make Lars. You can make M7.
I also just feel like when you're at those points, it means you've resolved like a Bestial plus like an Engraver or something.
I don't think that's unreasonable, but yes,
matters,
yes,
right?
I see what you mean. Yeah, for sure.
My logic is always, if I've gotten that far, anything else is like icing on the cake, right? Like what before you could make like SP, and that was usually good enough. Now it's like you can make a negate. Like, oh, good. Like, that's fine. Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
But you could have made the negate the whole time, but no one wanted to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Somebody found that Evils or Lars on the floor, and we're like, 2 level 6s. Here we are. Okay, so I think that covers Anaheim mostly, and the metagame as it has developed. I'm sure there will be more developments before the net, but this is the last YCS. There are no YCSs for the rest of this format, right? The next YCS is after Supreme Darkness, definitively.
I believe so.
There's no European events.
Out in like almost exactly 1 month.
Yeah, because
there's no YCS in January, right? Because Supreme Darkness comes out
Supreme Darkness comes out January 23rd, the day before my birthday. So if you guys want to send me any Yu-Gi-Oh cards for my birthday, you can.
Shut up.
Yeah, because there's no Latin American YCS before then either, and no European. Yeah, so I think there's actually no more YCSs until Supreme Darkness.
Yeah, because it would be Birmingham, or it's like Orlando, Birmingham, and then I think Sydney, Ecuador are the same, or maybe there's a gap in between. I'm not sure, but
El Salvador, you mean, right?
Oh, El Salvador. Sorry, yeah, true.
Yeah, that's March 1st.
Because there is a 3v3 in Ecuador, right? That they announced that I'm thinking of.
No, there's 3v3. There's a 3v3 in El Salvador in March.
It is El Salvador. Why was I thinking of Ecuador? So someone in the group chat is from Ecuador, and they keep saying something about a YCS, and I just brush it off. Like, I'm not going, bro. Sorry. But,
I think is that the most recent one that happened? I don't remember.
I don't honestly, maybe that's how that's how gapped it has been. But yeah.
All right. So Supreme Darkness is the next one, but let's quickly talk about the ban list, I guess. I thought it was super cool that they announced it the way they did. And that was like I kind of wish it was a slightly more impactful I don't know what more impactful it could have done. The new cards literally came out that day, right? Like what are you gonna do? But yeah, it was very, I think, like the whole production of him coming out with the briefcase and having like bodyguards
I definitely enjoyed it.
It was so crazy.
Also knowing full well that like nothing that they can do is going to just like ignite some type of spark in me. Right?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Anything that would potentially come back is not going to be like, I have to play Yu-Gi-Oh instantly.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the cards that could come back are either cards that like have been power crept, or if they come back, it might actually be bad for the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to figure out what could happen that would get me excited, and I think the whole spectacle leading up to the reveal, that's what got me excited. And maybe they should do more stuff like that to keep it interesting. Because then when the list falls flat, at least you had the fun stuff behind it. There was engagement. There was a lot of that looming, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Like, we've never had this happen before. Like, is that to say the next time they do a reveal like this, it falls flat because people know what to expect? Like, no, like, I'm still going to be excited. I think it's just the idea that they could announce something ridiculous. That's the appeal. And having that stuff live, awesome. I watched Jesse's video with you filming it.
Yeah.
And you're like relaying to him.
Yeah. Because
Jesse, they've unbanned Barrage. Like, stuff like that. It's so fun.
Yeah, because we had to film in the content area. Yeah, because so at the YCSs, there's no filming on the floor of the event unless you. I think you have to get a literal like press badge, which
it's like,
obviously
it's like a media pause
we are not like journalists for an actual media outlet. So They have a content creator
don't say
area.
that. We need those badges for
Gen Con. Yeah. You know, so we went to they have like an area set up where you can do that. So I had to have the stream open and like, because we couldn't hear it from the main stage from there, and it was literally, yes, it was like I was on the walkie-talkie getting the information. But yeah, so I guess let's just real quick just go over the list. Nightmare, Jowgen banned, good, right? Like we wanted those cards banned for a while.
Yeah,
great, like fantastic. Original Sinful Spoil, Snake Eyes,
which we all said should have happened. Well, I said this originally. I don't know if anyone else was saying it, but it was one of the cards originally.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for
ban Poplar, ban Flamberge. No. I'm like, just ban original. I
want to say it's been so long that we might have been talking about banning original since like episode 28. Like this is episode 40 that we're recording right now. I think it might have been episode 28 where we were like, I think if they want to just keep all the Diabell Star cards at 3, they can just ban original. Like I think that is what we said. We were like, ban original or ban Flamberge instead of doing what Japan did, which is limit 7 cards and ban nothing. We were like, if you just ban original, then you can keep all the Diabell Star cards and it's all fine, whatever. Yeah, so great. I think it's funny that deck just did not show up at all at the event and then it got banned anyway, but sure. Like new cards, right? Like it just this is one of those things where it's like, even if Snake Eyes is no longer the definitive best deck after 2 rounds of hits, like this is the 3rd time it's gotten hit now, and it's like, just put it down.
So I want to ask new cards. Quick question, because I asked this to some people after the event. With original ban, do you think that if Snake Eye Ash was at 3, it would matter?
I already thought about this, and I don't think so.
I don't think it would
I thought about this. I actually thought about how it was weird they didn't put Poplar back to 3. Even if they didn't want to put Ash back to 3.
I didn't think about that, honestly.
The fact that they put, spoiler alert, they put Opening of the Spirit Gates back to 3 because they limited Phantom of Yubel. Weird decision. I think they could have kept that card still at 1.
I don't think,
But regardless, like, well, it's fine. But yeah, I thought for sure, like, if they banned original, even if they didn't want to put Ash back to 3, I thought they would have put Poplar back to 3 for sure. That's what I thought they would have done. But they didn't.
For sure,
so
actually.
I feel like on the next list, maybe we'll see Poplar go back to Poplar to 2. Something like, I don't know.
Stupid.
Yeah, something just like total. But yeah, because Poplar seems really irrelevant with the original band. But maybe I'm
right. I mean, before you could just go like activate Bonfire, special Poplar, search original, and start a combo that way. Now you just cannot do that. So that's like not even close to being as good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy with this. I think it's time that the fire decks have to actually, like, we've talked about how this card is just only used for evil, I guess. Like, I am okay. Another reason I think it's kind of funny they didn't put Poplar back to 3 is like, clearly they were thinking about the cards they could put back to 3 if this card got banned, because they put Airlifter back to 3. Right? Because they were like, we're taking away original, you know, like we'll give him back Airlifter. But they didn't put Poplar back. But it's whatever. Limits Chandra and Sangen Kaiman for the Tempai deck. Good. I hate that deck. I think everybody who doesn't play Tempai hates it. Right? Like, I think that's like a pretty common sentiment, I feel. That if Tempai decks are not sleeved in your hand, you dislike it. Is that like an unpopular opinion?
Probably. I mean, I do not have a problem with it as much as like a lot of other people. I don't think it's like a healthy deck to have, but literally the only time I've ever lost to that deck in any tournament is when they had Dimensional Shifter when I was playing a fire deck. If I was playing anything and did not get shifted, I was still beating that deck. So it wasn't like I was like, oh god, this deck is so annoying or whatever. I never had a problem with the card as much as I had a problem with Shifter. But still, like, I still don't think the deck is like, it never should have been made in the way it was.
Yeah. Like, I don't think Tempai was like, I mean, I think maybe Mashadul is skewing my opinion of it, where, like, I didn't really play, like, I think when Tempai was good, it was, like, the time when I wasn't really playing events, so I kind of dodged it. I played one Tempai at Niagara, but I was playing Centurion, which apparently is a really good Tempai matchup, so I won, but, yeah, Sorry, I'm about to sneeze and my head's gonna explode. Anyways, so I guess like I'm glad they hit. Like I like that this list kind of just cleans stuff up. Like Phantom of Viewbell also at 1, and then Opening Spirit Gates back to 3. Weird decision. I think this is also one of those decisions where it's like when they semi-limited Unicorn, and then when they banned Arise Heart, they put it back to 3 immediately, and we were like, no, why? Like stop. You know, like it would have been okay to leave that card at 2 for like a little while longer. You know, where I don't think. Again, it's so weird now it's even weirder that Poplar didn't go back to 3. Because they put all these other cards back when the other one got, So, Phantom V-Bell to 1, I think that's a very good hit. I think that makes a lot of sense. Right? I think that's like something that, like that card also is just a crazy, ridiculous, like, card. Barrage unbanned. I didn't know that card was banned.
Yeah, when they
I didn't know that.
The last card they announced, and they're like Zodiac. I'm like, oh, it's going to be Droidon. And they're like Barrage, and I'm like, wow, that was like the most underwhelming thing to end on.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I didn't know the card was banned. You know what? Without Broad Bull or Dryden, I don't think this card does anything. It was played as an extender in Tri Brigade. I think that's why it got banned, right? Because they played it in Tri Brigade.
I guess, yeah.
I think we're so far beyond that deck being a thing that it doesn't matter. But
yeah, like I just don't get it. Like in Master Duel, you have 3 of those, and you have 3 Dryden, and now we have Super Mega Dryden on steroids. Like I don't understand.
Oh yeah, Detonator is 5 Dryden's in 1. Yeah. That's true.
I think this Forbidden List could have been. I hope they just do a thing where they just clean up a massive cleanup and just get rid of all the shit on there and just make it like less. Like I don't think like the cards like the Sun Avalon cards have to be on there anymore. I don't think. What else is on here? The Sun Avalon cards. There was something else I was looking at earlier. I was like, why is this still on there? Oh, like Striker Dragon does not need to be limited to 1.
I don't think Into the Void needs to be.
Phantom, yes, Into the Void. We have 3 Upstart Goblin. Why is it limited to 1? Phantom Sky Blaster.
There's just a lot of stuff they very blatantly neglect, right?
Astrograph Sorcerer. Like, just get rid of all these cards off the list. Clean it up so it's like not as big and just irrelevant. Like,
but Jeff, hear me out. If they clean it up instantly, then the next ban list that they do doesn't get padded by all the stuff that they forgot to do this ban list. Think about their logic. That's actually probably why it's happening. They'll be like, oh, Into the Void to 3. It's like, this could have happened like 12 years ago. Yes. Like, that has to be it. Like, if it's not going to affect anything, surely you just stagger all of these unlimits or otherwise and just go from there.
Sure.
And then you get Jerome to reveal it from a briefcase.
That's true. Yeah. Like when he said Cyberjar to 2, and we all went, "What?" Like,
that was not a card I expected to go to semi-limited.
Yeah. I mean, sure, whatever. Okay. Jackalope and Tsuchinoko.
Cards should be at 3.
Sure. Yeah, they could be.
We are so far past how Danger's interactive.
I think we are too. Can you imagine getting Peruliad when revealing a Danger? Oh my god. Yes. I would scream.
Sometimes I would hope it misses.
Like, Eva to 2? Sure. Okay. Monkey Board to 2? Sure.
Like this card, like that should. I think this card should be at 3. I think Astrograph Sorcerer should be at 3.
Yeah.
Pendulum is so far gone.
While Electromite is banned, you can do anything. Any of these cards can be. Is Kieran still at 1, or did they put that to 3?
Kieran's at 3.
Kieran's at 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess. For the unlimits, all the Dragon Rollers, which I think now is more exciting than it was at the time. Now that we've seen the new Dragon cards coming out in Alliance Insight.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which not that I'm convinced those cards should be broken.
Already at 3 in Master Duel, and they did approximately nothing, which is to be expected. Like they are pretty crap, but the new cards are really good.
Pretty good. Yeah,
cards are really good. I don't think they're like, I don't think like a pure Dragon Roller deck will be like a tier 1 deck, but I think it's something that you could have a lot of fun of and do decent with.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting as well because I think the new Dragon Roller deck
would not actually play 3 copies of these.
Probably not.
Anyway.
I don't think there'd be any. No, you wouldn't.
I think you're playing like 1 or 2, like 2 of some and 1 of like a shittier one or something.
Yeah, like maybe you'd play 3 Tempest. Like maybe.
Well, that's just
right.
The better one.
Maybe that's the better one. Like I don't know. Like but yeah.
I also think that Tidal is crazy in that deck.
Sure.
It copies Tidal's effect, so you get to send any card from your deck to the graveyard, which is a banned thing on the Forbidden List 20,000
times.
We
got time. I'll see you in 2024, 2025 when we can actually justify testing it. But
I think you can just play Kashtiras with these cards, right? Like if you need more level 7
they
monsters.
tried that in Master Duel, it just wasn't like, obviously Master Duel's a different breed.
But now you got the new. Can you make the new Dragon Ruler rank 7s with Kashtiras, or do they need?
No, they take Dragon monsters. They take Dragon monsters.
They thought of it. They thought
about that.
Like you're locked, right? When you use
I have
the
no
new
idea.
shitters, or am I thinking something else?
I have no idea. But you would sound like I should.
And what I've seen is just like they make the Dragon Maid shit. They make the new Dragon Ruler thing. It's like
right. I think that the best way to play like the Dragon Ruler stuff is with the new Dragon Maid cards. I think those are like,
really good.
Cool.
The new fusion seems really good.
Yeah.
Pankratops at 3. I forgot this card was at 2.
Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't go to 3 when they released the tins and it was a QCR.
Yeah, it went to 2 when that happened, I guess. Sure, that doesn't matter. Lunalight Tiger. Sure, I didn't know this card wasn't at 3. Airlifter. I did know this card was not at 3. I think that is pretty good. That card got unlimited. I've seen some people mess around with like a Fiendsmith Rescue Ace deck, and it's like because I think even without I don't think Rescue Ace it won a YCS, so obviously it was played, but it didn't really get to be played at its full power here like it did in the OCG, where we didn't get Promethean Princess here until Airlifter was already limited. And I think a lot of people probably never experienced like the board post Promethean Princess where they go SP Turbulence, and if you try to hand trap Turbulence, they just chain SP and then it gets removed from the field. And if you hand trap it before it activates, so SP can't dodge it, you just turn SP and Turbulence into Promethean Princess and then bring it back, which was not possible previously because Promethean Princess was not released yet when Rescue Ace had Airlifter at 3. And then by the time Promethean Princess came out, now we got all the Snake Eye support and Airlifter was at 1, so there was really no reason to play Rescue Ace, which I think if they left Airlifter at 3 for another format, Rescue Ace could have been a contender at that time. So I think it's interesting now that like Rescue Ace never got to be played at full power here, but maybe you can do something like because Turbulence is still a crazy card, and I think the Rescue Ace's weakness is back row because all of the traps only interact with monsters, and I think the Rescue Ace traps interact really favorably against Ryzeal. So I think there's a world that you can play this deck. Honestly, I think this card is very good.
My problem now, though, is before when you did like Fiendsmith Rescue Ace, you could at least Beatrice and then get into like one other part of your engine. Whereas like the Fiendsmith stuff now is just putting up, some insulation. And it doesn't seem like it actually solves like the consistency issue, but
that's what Airlifter to 3 solves. No, I'm just kidding. No, I agree with you. It's just still like that's true with Fiendsmith in every deck right now, right? Like it doesn't add more consistency.
That's what so it's like. I think if I were to build a deck with the Fiendsmith stuff, like we said before, it's like you just look at something that doesn't require you to have like 20 one-ofs to compensate to make your deck do what the other decks just do off, less cards.
If I want to play trap cards that set
play
my
Maliss.
deck, I'm gonna play Maliss.
Sure. I just think like Rescue Ace was good pre-Agov. Like Max made the finals of Cancun with Rescue Ace before Original even came out. I think this deck is fine.
I think it's sort of lined up a little bit better.
Because it was good. Well, I think it's because they were good against Kashtira.
It was good against Kashtira, and Max Iblied all of them, and they could not.
You also got to like randomly.
Wait, can you still Ibly them?
Unchained as well. So.
What did they ban to stop you from Iblying them?
Yeah.
Nothing.
It should be nothing.
Okay.
It was like the puzzle amino combo.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, just do that again. I don't know. It's the same. Do that, but with Fiendsmith cards also. I don't know.
But then you queue into Maliss and
they make Lingaribo and you go, oh man. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Not only did you give me a monster, I get to get your trap card.
Fine.
Yeah, you gotta leave, bro. Pack it up.
Fine. All right. Colossus at 3. When I heard this, I went, oh, that's cool. Colossus was at 1. And now it's at 3. You have multiple Colossus. Colossus was just at 2, and I didn't know. So I thought it was at 1. Also, I called this card by the wrong name for 6 years. I thought this was the world.
Oh, you heard him say it? You heard did you say
everyone said Justicar?
I thought it was because a Justicar. Because a Justicar is a word. Yeah, because a Justicar is like a thing. So
when I heard him said I thought it was having a seizure or
me too.
I was like, what did he just say?
I didn't know there was an I. I didn't know it was spelled CIAR. I thought it was Ib the World Chalice Justicar. I did not know it was Justiciar. I just didn't.
Everyone else felt that way. Don't worry. Like actually,
I was losing my mind.
Me too. Me
like,
too.
No,
I pulled it up and I was like, wait, what? And then there was an I. I was like, who put that I there? Like who put that there? And then that's at 3. It was at 2. I don't think the third one mattered. Like this is a card that's like when it went to 1, it was the same as going. Like this card could be at 11, right? Like it could be like 1 is the same as 15. Like it doesn't matter. And then Open Spear Gates to 3. Did Yubel get better? Like is that I don't know.
No, I think having multiple things is better than having 3 of this, but someone at my locals has been playing this deck and doing actually kind of well. So, but people are still getting used to the new cards
for sure,
and they're not very familiar. Like it's their second week playing Ryzeal and Maliss, and they have not totally adapted yet.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, so like this list was like I don't know. I guess it was funny when they announced it. We were all like after the event, we were all like, man, I had a lot of fun at this event. Like this format was like pretty good. Like I think this is gonna be really interesting Ryzeal Maliss format. And then we're like, what are they gonna do? Like how are they? We were so afraid they would hit something to like upset the balance of these decks, right? And just like make it worse. Like we were so afraid they were gonna be like Bonfire banned Gold Sark at 3, like just something crazy. And we're like, oh god, but they didn't. They left them all alone. All right, so I think that covers the ban list. I hope they do another like live reveal type thing again. That was super cool, and it was just awesome, honestly. So real quick, let's touch on SUDA. We're not gonna do like a full set thing of SUDA. We're just gonna talk about the cards that are mainly gonna go into the Ryzeal and the Maliss deck. And I guess there's a
third card I want to talk about. So
sure.
I guess talking about the Mulcharmy. I hope
it exists. That's what I want to talk about. It's a Mulcharmy that does Grave and Banish. Now we have all of them.
Right. Because of that, I hope they ban like cards like Dimensional Barrier and Lancia, and then use this as an excuse to like, hell, Lancia can be banned now, which I like, and now people can just be forced to play this card. And
if they ban Shifter to make you play this Mulcharmy, I would like that a lot. Anyways, yeah.
But yeah,
there's other cards.
There's 2 cards, and the third one is Abawa Q.
What?
Abawa Q is the new Link 4 monster for Fiends, which specifically would help the Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck or any sort of Fiendsmith conglomerate deck. So
I guess let's talk about that one first. This is the Link 4 that can reborn. It reborns a light or dark. This is like why Jowgen got banned in air quotes. because people could Cherubini Jowgen and then reborn it with this, or am I just making that up?
You could do that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it takes 2+ monsters. It's including a fiend. So wow, fiends, real hard to do.
Yeah.
During the main phase quick effect, you can discard a card and activate one of these effects, destroy one card on the field, or banish this card until the end phase. And if you do, special summon one later dark monster from your graveyard. I think this is like a really crazy card. Honestly, I like how it, like it seems like moderate play in the OCG, but their Fiendsmith engine is like really neutered.
Yeah, they have one engraver, one tracked. Right?
Yes. Yeah, one engraver, one tracked. Yeah. And so I think this card will definitely see play. And I think a very like underrated thing about this is you can blink it on your opponent's turn to make it safe. And then when it comes back for your turn, it has an effect that says during your standby phase, draw cards equal to the number of different monster types among monsters in your graveyard, then place the same number of cards from your hand at the bottom of your deck. So it basically ensures you're starting your turn with the perfect hand that you need.
You're probably going to draw 4
cards, draw 4 cards, and then like sculpt your hand to whatever you need. And I think that's like a really
that's a crazy effect. Like actually crazy effect.
So it's really interesting. I think this card's very interesting. Obviously, like Monster Burning a later dark monster could be really scary. Like they have to be really careful about the cards they make in the future because you could just be
my favorite. You know they won't be
every time.
every time. Wow, what a generic reborn effect for light and dark monster. I sure hope they don't make good light or dark monster in the future. Oh no, they made a good light or dark monster.
But then, you can go ahead and talk about the twins because you're more of the Ryzeal.
So. Okay, this card. Oh god.
I hope this card gets banned.
Twins of the Eclipse. I think we were talking about this. I am with you. I hope they make this card a common and they ban it as fast as they banned Lacrima. This card is unacceptable. It has no
reason to exist.
Yeah. So this card it's a rank 4. If it is sent to the graveyard by any means,
you should also cover that you can.
I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that as the So if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target 2 other rank 4 lower Xyz monsters in your graveyard, special summon one of them, and if you do, attach the other to it. So what Japan is doing with this is they are sending it with Ext, they are attaching it to Detonator with itself. Then when Detonator is removed from the field, Twins of the Eclipse reborns Detonator and attaches the duo drive to the Detonator, and then Detonator's effect attaches the Twins of the Eclipse back to it. Those are all once per turn, so if they clear Detonator again, it will not reborn it. But basically, if your opponent can't answer Detonator twice immediately, it just keeps bringing back Detonator, and Detonator keeps attaching Twins of the Eclipse, and it's just so resilient. And the other thing it does it's a generic rank 4, but you can use a rank 4 monster as
you can treat them as level 4 monsters.
You can treat rank 4 monsters as level 4s for the Xyz summon of the card. So it also lets you get around the restriction of the field spell Ryzeal Cross that says you cannot Xyz summon monsters with the same name as monsters you control, because you can just overlay them into Twins of the Eclipse to get them off your field, and then you can make another Detonator or another duo drive or whatever. And I think that application of it in pure Ryzeal is fine, in air quote. Like, it's fine. It's not that oppressive. It's just very, very, very efficient, and it makes a consistent, efficient deck just more efficient and consistent. The problem that I think this card is going to cause is we've already seen some loops with it coming out of OCG decks where they're making Evilswarm Ouroboros and then they are reborning it with Twins of the Eclipse and putting a material on it, and they are like discarding multiple cards from the opponent's hand turn 1, because kind of to go back to what I mentioned with the Ryzeal Mirror, how I said I think going second like right now might be like pretty good. Like, you just need a breaker and then you can kind of break through their board pretty easily. a lot of OCG decks were adopting that mentality, and they were going lighter on the hand traps, and they were really just going to breakers. So how people adapted was, instead of just summoning Duo Drive and, you know, trading for one hand trap and then getting board breakered, I'm going to summon Evils from Ouroboros. I'm going to discard 3 cards from your hand and then make Duo Drive after. Mm-hmm. So they discard 3 cards from your hand, and then you hand trap their Duo Drive, and then you have 1 card left, right, for their detonator. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to that application of this card. I'm like, that's not currently the dominant play style that we've seen.
It's relatively it shouldn't new, exist. Though. I think it's definitely it's low commitment. The only thing that really stands out is like you need additional bodies to do the Ouroboros play, and a lot of that is like supplemented by the Rhoda from Maze, right? And they're just able to play, like, I saw one list playing Circular, and it would rip 2 with Ouroboros and then set up the like, circular diameter thing, and would rip another card and have a negate. And I was like, well, I'm glad that card's not legal.
I mean, even just like ripping 1 card, let alone 2.
Ripping 1 is enough. You don't have to get like super gimmicky, but it's like generating the extra bodies without playing like 3 copies.
I think that hand ripping should not exist in modern Yu-Gi-Oh. The way it exists. Like, I don't think that should be printing on cards anymore.
It's efficient. Like, the fact that you're able to do it.
To be fair, engine, right? Ouroboros was printed 11 years ago.
Yes, Ouroboros was printed 11 years ago. Yes.
Which is crazy. 11 years.
Why I hate cards like Tactics. Like, Tactics should not have like the hand rip effect. Like, that should,
Which, like, I think the thing that's being circulated now, which I'm not 100%, like, I'm not convinced this will be that good, but I'm also not convinced it'll be bad. Like, I think there's a real possibility this deck is good, is the Heraldic Beast combos that people have been showing, where
those cards look like custom cards.
I think those cards are just good. I think I've seen some people be like, these cards suck, like, you're not going to put bricks in your deck. I don't think these cards are bricks. I think these cards might just be broken. But there's a combo with just X Ryzeal with the new Heraldic Beast coming out of Alliance Insight that resolves Ouroboros 5 times off of just 1 card. And that's not okay. That shouldn't be. You know? Like, it's like, what, you summon Ouroboros twice, you reborn it with Twins of the Eclipse, and you copy it with the Heraldic. I don't remember the 5th. Oh, do you plug in summon it back? Yes, and then you plug in summon it back. Yes. So, because plug in also reborns any Xyz monster and then attaches the material from your deck, so you can plug it. Yeah. So you go summon it twice, Twins of the Eclipse it back, plug in it back, and then copy it with one of the other Heraldic with the Heraldic Beast.
And like I said before, you don't even have to go that deep.
Yeah,
like, you could just, to beat your opponent, you could just probably rip twice and put your opponent on a 4-card hand into your detonator, and you're probably still going to win most of the time.
Yeah. I don't think doing it once is enough, but I think doing it twice, like, I think Twins of the Eclipse letting you do it twice with very low commitment is, I think, where it gets a little extra. And then with plugin, right? So, like, if you resolve Duo Drive, you do it 3 times for free, and like, sure, man, like, yes, you probably win. That makes Fua go up in like, value, right? Not like monetary value, but like in value in your hand. I mean, like, it makes Fua potentially a more important card against the pure deck, which currently,
and then we have this like cyclical sort of like rebuild, right, in terms of how we deck build if we do have those cards in.
Then if people are playing Fua, you go back to my deck.
Pivot, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it just creates these, like, the situations right now. It's kind of ironic when we're a little bit more limited in what we can do, right? You get rewarded in preparing to beat those things, and then I think there's a little bit more like skill expression in the gameplay. And then when cards like this are released, now your options get way more polarizing, and it's like you can play the 6 Mulcharmy deck and queue into this deck and just draw them and then win because you've drawn more cards and they've discarded from your hand. But then you draw those cards into the more reserved deck that is just making Duo Drive searching, and then you have all these Charmies you can't use and you lose, or you drew like 1 card off and you lose, or you just go to the breaker deck that's good against the low committal deck and then you get hand ripped, and it's like then I feel like the skill expression is kind of removed, and it's more just, did you happen to queue into the correct version of the decks that are all kind of equally valid? Which I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. We've talked about the different. We've talked about stuff like this a lot in the past, where like when the format has too many extremely powerful things that are very, very, very different, it can feel very like a roulette of not how you play, but what you play against. So, not happy about this card, but I think it's more about I guess I'm more not happy with Ouroboros, but I feel like even if they decide to keep this card around and then just ban Ouroboros, which I wouldn't hate, I think that's still just there's another card waiting to be abused
a million times, even when you out it is crazy.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
This just seems like a huge oversight of card design. I don't think they realize what they're predicting with. I think this is supposed to be just like a random card, especially when you compare to the other two cards that were made for the Pokemon deck and for Maliss. Like,
yeah,
it's very surprising that they gave the best deck the best card.
Yeah, because SUDA doesn't have direct Ryzeal, Rouge, or Maliss support, but it has this generic rank 4, which is very clearly meant to be good in Ryzeal. It has a Cyberus card that is very clearly meant to be good in Maliss, and then another card that's pretty good in the Rouge deck.
No, it's not good at all. I don't think.
Oh, it's not good at all? Okay, well, sure.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so then
they gave the worst deck the worst card.
Yeah, which is definitely happens sometimes. Okay, so then do you want to talk about the card that's good in Maliss? Is it Template Skipper? Is that the one?
Yeah, Template Skipper. I am not like a huge fan of this card.
Sure.
You can special summon it from. It's a level 1 Dark Cyberse. You can special summon this card from your hand to a zone a Cyberse Link monster points to. You can only summon it once per turn this way. During your main phase, you can banish a Cyberse monster from your hand or graveyard, and if you do, this can be treated as a link material with the same name as the banished monster when used for a link summon.
This card is way worse than Twins of the Eclipse. Twins of the Eclipse discards 5 cards from your opponent's hand. This card
like people
this card's an extender.
It, like banishes your it's like a mini extender, and you can banish your Maliss monster, and then you can treat it as a Maliss monster. And I'm just thinking like I can use 10 Bestials, and a Bestial does the same thing this card does.
I think I'll summon Ouroboros 5 times instead.
Yeah, like if you summon a what's it called, a Maliss monster, and it gets hand trapped, you just link it into Link Decoder, summon a Bestial, and then you have basically full combo, which is exactly what this card does, except Bestials are just better. You maybe play one of this card if at all. I'd be more inclined to just probably like maybe if you're trying to play a version with. Well, what's the card? Like the Cyberse Rhoda Signet Mining. Like maybe you play this, but if you're not playing Signet Mining, I would not play this card and would just just wait for a new Maliss monster to come out in Alliance Insight.
Yeah, because that's probably how like it's like generally speaking, when they release these deck building packs, they take like one pack off, and then almost always the next pack has a support card for all of them, right? Like I would be shocked if we don't see a new Maliss, a new Ryzeal, and a new Ryuji. Yeah, that just seems to be like. And then I say this as Centurion got a new card for every set for a year, and Vanquish Soul got 2 cards 3 sets later, and then now they've just been in the trash can. So
that's okay. You'll wait like Dragon Mage and Dragon it like so.
Oh yeah, eventually.
You'll get like 4 cards or something in a subset, 2 years from now.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for it. But yeah, I think I don't want to go into it, but I think like we were talking about, could Snake Eye Ash have come back or Poplar with original band? Do the new Azaminas and Snake Eyes in this set, like the new Contact Fusion, like could that have been good if they had kept all the Snake Eyes stuff at 3? Like, could that have even been a deck, or do you think it's too far gone at this point?
I think the White Forest Azamina deck is actually like quite good. I think it's because there's like a version of it that doesn't even use like original. It's more like a synchro based deck, and then uses the fusions as engine, and then you end on a negate. From the whatever the Azamina guy's name, I get them mixed up. There's Muruglesia or whatever, and then whatever the other one is, Silvera, I think. But I'm actually quite interested in those because the Azamina LZ of the White Forest is probably one of the best cards in the set, and this set's like pretty mediocre. And I'm pretty sure this card will just be a secret rare, but it's very strong. But I think there's definitely a world where like that's like a somewhat playable deck. But I think it's terrible into Malice. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing other than that, I think the main thing, which I'm pretty sure will be a secret rare, is Primate Another Barrel, which is a 3 of in the Blue Eyes deck.
Yeah, they sure do love doing that.
Yeah, I'd rather just talk about this set as a whole another time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There's not a lot, but there's a good chunk that I think.
This set just has cool cards in it, not anything that is like crazy like the last 2 or 3 sets.
Like the 10-year cards seem cool, but like
those are cool.
You know, we're past that point now, right? Like that's the issue. It's like we could probably talk about all of these generic supports in between, but it's
Yeah, I mean, there's a land haste in this deck too. Yeah, so I think we can probably call it here. We've talked about the Ryzeal and Maliss cards in the new set, but I think as we get closer to the release of SUDA, we will probably
the sneak peek for that should be exactly like a month from now. So.
Yeah, we'll do one of our customary full videos on Supreme Darkness. I think those are
especially because Supreme Darkness will also have a new world premiere theme, and so we'll see what that is.
When we see what those are, I think that's probably when we'll do our full Supreme Darkness like review that week, because we've definitely missed a couple sets when we were just like not recording, but I think we've done.
We would do stuff in between, and then I think we'd miss like a TCG exclusive that is relevant or something. That'd really be the extent of it. But
all right, so I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys for listening. Much appreciated. So I think the next one maybe we'll have something like if I end up playing some regionals, then maybe we'll do another like current metagame breakdown type deal, or perhaps our next one might just be the Supreme Darkness breakdown. But do you guys have any closing remarks?
No, I don't think so. I think I covered basically everything. I guess if you want to go watch my deck profile, you can go do that. But I definitely will be making lots of changes to the Maliss deck, and I'll be continuing to play it. So I think also I have a regional coming up too. I'm going to play in. I've played in one regional in like the past 4 years, and it was in.
You know what regionals mean? Deck profile.
I was gonna say, even if we don't, we could just do. In the last episode we talked about doing like other content, and obviously your deck profile was the best performing video on this channel by 20x. So it's pretty reasonable that we might just do another video, even if we don't. We could just do a video talking about our Ryzeal and Maliss decks, like how we've changed our decks in the format. But anyways, that's for later. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.
Adios.